we're bringing you new updates from Idaho in the case of Doomsday cult mom Lori Vallow Daybell. As her trial approaches, her defense team is making a last-ditch effort to take the death penalty off the table. The defense said in their motion earlier this month, quote, "Even if the government's new opinion of Lori has some believers that she is just evil, we don't kill witches anymore in America." The Doomsday cult mom is facing murder charges for the deaths of her two children, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. She is also charged alongside her husband, Chad Daybell, with conspiring to kill his first wife, Tammy Daybell. Aside from Lori's defense team calling the death penalty unethical due to mental illness, they also point to media saturation of the case and discovery violations from the prosecution as being big problems. Another big issue the defense mentions is the lack of chemicals used to carry out the death penalty. As an alternative, death by firing squad is currently being debated in Idaho lawmakers, but the defense says that too would lack moral decency. Arguments on this motion are slated for next Wednesday. We are about 2 weeks out from jury selection in this case, and Lori has spent over 1,200 days in jail because of the pandemic and competency issues. Between Lori and Chad Daybell, who's been tried separately for similar charges, taxpayers across Idaho have coughed up more than $3.6 million to cover law enforcement, prosecutors, and other personnel costs. Here's the breakdown. The city of Rexburg has spent more than $1 million. That cost comes from the investigation into JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan's disappearance. Madison County, where Rexburg is located, has spent nearly $500,000 to date. And Fremont County has spent nearly $2 million on the investigation into Tammy Daybell's death. And with Lori's trial slated to last 8 to 10 weeks, there's no telling what the grand total will be. Terry, if Lori Vallow Daybell avoids the death penalty because of mental illness, what does that mean for Chad Daybell?
Well, he faces the death penalty. Idaho is still one of 27 states that has the death penalty. And what the prosecution would have to do there is to show that the aggravating factors outweigh the mitigating factors. And if they can do that, and this is a heinous crime, I think they will be able to impose that. And some of those aggravating factors include the fact that it's a heinous and atrocious crime, and that it's premeditated, and it's involving more than one murder. In this case, it's involving more than one murder, and that he is a continuing threat to society. I think they could show that as well, and I think that because this is one of his beliefs, and the fact that he has other people who have been associated, like Tammy Daybell. So I think that they could easily prove at least one of those aggravating factors, and I think that that would outweigh any sort of mitigating factors in this case. So he could face the death penalty.
Name it real quick. We don't kill witches anymore. Is that a reasonable argument to remove the death penalty, or an overreach that might cost Vallow her life?
It's an overreach, and the Supreme Court has made it clear that mental illness is not a categorical bar to execution. Obviously, contrast that with intellectual disability. You can't execute someone who's a child or intellectually disabled. And, you know, to echo what Terry said, what's worse than killing your two kids, one of whom has special needs, and burying them in the backyard? If you believe in the death penalty, this is a death penalty case, Brian.
Another day without closure in the XXXTENTACION murder trial. The Florida jury has now been deliberating for nearly a week. But are they even close to a verdict for the three men accused of killing the up-and-coming rapper? XXXTENTACION's real name was Jose Onfroy. In 2018, he was shot to death and robbed while leaving a motorcycle dealership. Prosecutors presented a lengthy case pointing the finger at Michael Boatwright as the triggerman, Trayvon Newsom as the second gunman, and Dedrick Williams as the ringleader and getaway driver. The star witness was another co-defendant, Robert Allen, who pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and robbery charges. He testified against his alleged accomplices. Only one defense team presented a case. Michael Boatwright's attorney questioned a Broward County sergeant and detective on the stand to poke holes in the investigation. The jury has gone over Robert Allen's testimony, surveillance videos, and thousands of text messages and social media posts. Toward the end of the day on Wednesday, the jury asked the court a question. They wanted to see if they're allowed to open the envelope that contains fingerprint evidence. The court let them know they can only view items, they cannot break open any seals. All right, I'm joined by my co-host, former trial attorney Terry Austin, and our very special guest, former prosecutor and author of the book, Harvard to hashtag Nima Rahmani. Terry, today the parties waived the right to return to the courtroom when the jury requests a break. Does that signal anything to you?
Well, it signals that the judge is ready, willing, and able to allow these questions to go on. The one good thing is if you don't call all the parties back for simple logistics, it will save time. And the one thing we want to do in this trial is save some time, because they've been deliberating for a week now and still they do not have a verdict. He took the time to ask not only the parties as the attorneys, he asked each of the defendants. They stood up, he swore them in, and they all said, yes, we agree that we should waive the right to be present when the jury's just asking about logistical questions.
Now, Nima, I know that Terry and probably all the viewers want to know this, but should the judge just bring the jury in, see how far they are from a verdict, and declare a mistrial if they're too far?
Brian, no, you don't want to even put that word mistrial. You don't want to put that out there. You don't want the jurors to even consider the possibility that maybe they may be deadlocked. Now, obviously, you never know what a jury's going to do, especially a Florida jury, but you're talking about 3 different defendants here, and the jury may be pushing 1 or 2 holdouts with respect to 1 defendant or maybe 2. But if you're the judge, you want them back there. You want them deliberating. You want the pressure to be on and not bring them in and raise the possibility that they might be deadlocked, have to mistrial the whole thing.
All right, Nima, let me take back that M word. I'm going to put it back in my pocket, and we'll see how this plays out. Well, we have an update now on the lawsuit filed by the parents of Gabby Patito against her fiancé, Brian Laundrie's parents. On Wednesday, a Florida judge pushed the trial back to May of 2024. Now, initially, the trial was going to happen in August of this year. Part of the delay is connected to a letter Roberta Laundrie wrote to her son, Brian, that referenced burying a body and had the words burn after reading on it. Laundrie's mother says she wrote the letter before Brian and Gabby set out on their fateful cross-country trip. The judge in the case will hear a motion in May concerning the letter and whether the Laundrie family is required to produce it. The Patito family is accusing the Laundries of negligence after Brian killed Gabby during their road trip and left her body in Wyoming. He then returned to his home in Florida and took his own life, leaving behind a note admitting to the killing. The Patitos contend that his family knew he had killed Gabby but did nothing, and instead offered up a statement hoping she would be found safe. The special prosecutor appointed to oversee New Mexico's case against Alec Baldwin has stepped down. Andrea Reeves says she did not want any questions about her role as both a prosecutor and a New Mexico lawmaker to cause problems for the case. Attorneys for Baldwin had filed a motion arguing Reeves' dual role violated New Mexico's constitution. Alec Baldwin and film armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed are facing involuntary manslaughter charges for the on-set shooting death of Helena Hutchins in 2021. Baldwin was practicing with a prop gun on the set of the movie Russ. He says he did not know the gun had live ammunition in it.